When someone's rejected or betrayed in love, they'll grow horns. But in Davy Jones's case, he grew tentacles instead, and had to wander in the sea for 10 years, only reaching the shore once. Why can't Davy Jones go up the shore? Why did he become half human half sea creature? In order to make those tentacles, the film crew must have put a lot of efforts. Let's find out in today's video. Despite being the antagonist of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Davy Jones seems to be more favored than Will Turner or Elizabeth Swann. The reason Jones receives viewers' love must be their empathy for his tough love story. It's a fact that Davy Jones wasn't born with tentacles. Just see them as Jones's scars, left by a broken relationship. Davy Jones's not-so-happy love story started when his heart was still a human one. In the past, our Captain Jones was a brave man, an unbridled sailor afraid of no one. Strong as he was just a human, and a human loves. For some reason, Jones loved the sea goddess Calypso. A human loving a god must have a happy ending? No. To stay by Calypso, John accepted a trait of his own fate, and carried the duty of carrying the souls of those who died at sea from this world to another. However, what come with hardships are meaningful gifts. Jones only needed to accept working for a decade, so he and his love could unite for a day at shore. When came that day? The day Jones could go on land after 10 years long. Calypso wasn't there. Loneliness, disappointment and anguish in Jones's heart turned into anger and frustration. Believing Calypso had betrayed him, Jones made a plan to revenge the love grudge. He went to Shipwreck Cove, persuading captains to control Calypso. Under Jones's guidance, the first sea crew could trap Calypso in human form, and thanks to Jones, the vast sea then belonged to pirates. His revenge was done, but his heart remained for Calypso only. Out of guilt, Jones ripped out his heart, and devoted the rest of his life to the Flying Dutchman vessel. Let us explain a little bit about the ghost vessel Flying Dutchman. Before we proceed, in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, we know Davy Jones is the captain of this sailing vessel, but with its ability to propel itself underwater, like a submarine plus countless cannons built along the body and bow, the Flying Dutchman is the nightmare for all vessels big or small. However, history-wise, Flying Dutchman actually belongs to a Dutch captain named Vanderdecken, wanting to go back to Amsterdam as soon as possible. Vanderdecken had sailed it through the Cave of Good Hope. How unfortunate for him and the crew, a great storm appeared and consumed them. After that event, it was rumored that the Flying Dutchman was cursed and could never reach the shore again. It doesn't end there. Any ship coming across this ghost vessel are bound for tragedy. Okay, let's go back to Davy Jones's life. After ripping out and hiding his heart, Davy Jones put a curse on it too, that whoever stabbed it will have to replace Jones and become the Flying Dutchman's captain. It was also because of this curse that Jones's body deteriorated and gradually became a part of the vessel. This explains his half-human half-sea creature, for then Jones had to wander on the vessel at sea. After all those incidents, Davy Jones quitted the job Calypso gave. Instead of carrying dead souls to another world, Jones saved the dying people and gave them a chance to live for 100 years, to serve on Flying Dutchman. Deprived of a heart and thus a humane side, Jones became ruthless and cold-hearted. He was once a man living for love, but then the fear of all sailors. If you unfortunately gets captured, you only have two choices: serve on the Flying Dutchman or die. But even when you can survive and work on the vessel, life is even harder than death. For you'll always get hit by the first officer. And even worse, under Davy Jones's curse, you'll become a part of Flying Dutchman and eventually forget who you really were. We mentioned before that after betraying Calypso, Jones felt guilty, ripped his heart out and hid it in a chest. As long as nothing happened to the heart, he'd always be immortal. Yet Jones still felt all physical pains when he got stabbed or cut. Even when Jack Sparrow cut Jones's tentacles, you know they were still his, and he still felt the pain. Besides immortality, Davy Jones also possessed interesting powers, like going through objects, extraordinary physical strength, and especially the ability to control his tentacles, to grab things, smoke pipes or in some cases, end someone's life. He also led dangerous sailors whose abilities and strengths were just as strong. They could even go on land to carry out things Jones couldn't do. Even more, sailors on Flying Dutchman could also place a black mark on anyone indebted to their captain. Davy Jones used them as a mean to locate the debtor. Only Davy Jones could erase them. And if someone still wanted to outplay Jones, like Jack Sparrow, he'd release his monster Kraken to drag the debtor to the other world. As mentioned in Part 3 at World's End, Jack Sparrow got stuck in Davy Jones' locker after getting consumed by Kraken. According to the movie, Davy Jones' locker implies another dimension, where all his debtors are imprisoned forever. Something interesting for you. Davy Jones' locker is real, implying the bottom of the ocean. Jones' locker, or mentioning sailors or ships lost at sea. Yet no one knows the place and time of its origin. We only knows that the first time it appeared in an official document was in 1726, in the book, The 4 Years' Voyages of Captain George Roberts, written by Daniel Defoe, the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Let us know Davy Jones well. But did you know that, in history and legend as well, the origin of the name Davy Jones is really vague? There are several theories explaining that name. According to history, in the Pacific Ocean around 1630s, there once was a pirate named Davy Jones. But historians deemed this man not influential enough to make such a meaningful figure. And also according to historians, the story about Davy Jones might have stemmed from a British pub owner also in the 16th century. He used to make visitors drunk. 1. To trap and drown them at harbors. 2. To sell them to dealers for profit. The pub owner then became a pirate. And he too was extremely cruel. He usually didn't keep prisoners but killed or sank the ships and let sailors die. Besides the two theories mentioned, there are plenty of others explaining this name. For example, in the culture of the whales, Davy Jones is another name for Saint David, the guardian of sailors. Or according to some sources, Davy Jones can be from a prophet Jonah, who once disobeyed the God, making sailors on the same boat get punished too. Jonah has become a slang among sailors to refer to ones who bring bad luck. Aside from legends, the name Davy Jones was also included in literature. The first work thought to mention it is The 4 Years' Voyages of Captain George Roberts. Besides, we can also find Davy Jones in book titles like King Pest, Bleak House, and Treasure Island. Though disappointing the audience is unwanted, designer Hal Hickel of Industrial Light and Magic confirmed that Davy Jones was completely created using CGI. From his appearance, facial expressions, to smooth pale skin and even tentacles, all were very detailed and carefully made. When Season 2 was broadcasted, many believed that Davy Jones is a result of a thick makeup layer. The truth is so different from that. What we see in the movie are all computer generated. What we see in the not just Jones but the sailors on Flying Dutchman too. But special effects are just tools, not magic. In order to create a realistic Davy Jones, producers had to go through several steps: character design, coloring and setting up. Hal Hickel also shared that scenes with Davy Jones are often close-up, so details like wrinkles, expressions, eye and mouth movements are really important. It's because such tiny details can help viewers see the character's feelings, as well as events Jones went through in the past. One irreplaceable part of Jones is tentacles. Like other elements, they're also built with CGI. Though Jones's tentacles are plenty, animators still have to do them manually in a few scenes, so they can be as unique as possible with the original model. From Blackbeard, a real notorious pirate during late 17th, early 18th, the animators made a dust and heat of life mustache for Davy Jones. For all 46 tentacles to work individually, but can also cooperate, they need to be made very delicately. Visual artists of ILM had to separate its structure, like you see, into small cylinders. In this way, when they interact, artists can see their movements to build the most fully fledged model. However, it's so hard to imagine how they would move when stitched together. Therefore, the producers had to think of them as pieces of spaghetti stuck on a coat. Even more, ILM even built tentacle models with various movements. The purpose is to increase Davy Jones's vividness whenever he expresses a different emotion. After dealing with expressions and facial elements, artists proceeded with the matter of Davy Jones's skin color. As a bizarre creature spending all his life at sea, Jones's skin can't be like others. In fact, The skin color of this captain is a very lucky discovery of ILM. After drinking up a cup of coffee, a designer inadvertently spotted a stain on the cup and liked its color. They then immediately scanned it, added some extra details, and Davy Jones got his iconic skin from a coffee stain. Despite great skin and lifelike tentacles, Davy Jones still needs a soul. That's the actor Bill Nye. To attain this role, Bill had to compete against many famous names like Christopher Walken or Ian McShane. As he shared in Unscripted, our actor got a call from Gore Verbinski. While driving a car, Verbinski told Bill that he wanted Davy Jones to have an iconic voice. It also has to be manly and powerful. The director later suggested some accents, like Dutch or Norwegian. Yet this is a bit too hard for Bill Nye. He then suggested to the director about Scotland accent, for his mom grew up in Glasgow, and he could use it a bit. And the result was the director was really happy with Bill's accent, and he landed the role. Choosing Bill Nye for this role was arguably an extremely wise choice, with the difficulty in both acting and imagining the character in his head. Bill still excelled his role, so artists could easily complete Davy Jones. All needed movements for Davy Jones were perfectly performed. For example, in a scene where Jones is playing the piano, Bill had to entirely imagine the character's movements to complete the scene. VFX supervisor John Knoll shared that there were lots of commenting during Bill's acting. Someone said that such behaviors were weird, unnatural and unconvincing. But both Bill Nye and director Verbinski knew what they needed to do, and the wonderful outcome was beyond imagination. Having the designs as well as Bill Nye's soul, the last task for ILM was to combine both. Firstly, Bill Nye must be scanned, so artists could get all his facial contours. They then continued to adjust the pre-sculpted models to fit Bill Nye's contours, like sculpting higher cheekbones or doing jaw enlargement. Davy Jones's eyes are originally black, but since our actor's eyes are blue, this detail was changed too. For the actor, he had to wear makeup around the eyes and mouth, plus a gray suit. For the company's new technology, called iMocap, motion capture. Thanks to this new technology, the technical crew could analyze Bill Nye's scenes from all angles. From a 2D picture, the film crew would recreate his actions in 3D space. They would then digitalize these movements, apply them to the character, and put the last result on screen. It's also thanks to this technology that director Gore Verbinski and the actors could easily retake if needed. At the same time, they could interact with one another or with the surroundings more easily. Bill shared a fun fact that he really envied other actors because they could wear badass outfits wherever they come to the film studio, while he had to wear a gray suit. Next are Davy Jones's eyes. This was probably what director Gore Verbinski cared about the most, because he thought that would be the part viewers most focused on. Bill's eyes were also used to replace the old model because of this reason. Besides, the actor also has a really expressive face. That's why artists had to divide Bill's face into 700 small parts, so every time he expressed different emotions, they could adjust and change the tiniest details to make all expressions clear. And after all scenes are finished, the last thing to do was just replacing Bill's image with Davy Jones's. Thanks to quiet contributions from industrial light and magic artists, the general audience got to witness a bizarre yet highly realistic creature. With this wonderful work, Pirates of the Caribbean Season 2 won Oscar Gold statue for Best Achievement in Special Visual Effects in 2006 and also got another nomination for the same category in 2007. From Legends, Davy Jones has risen to the screen and got viewers' love for his bizarre, impressive look and adventurous story. Later, although the Pirate series witnessed the appearance of other memorable villains, like Blackbeard or Captain Salazar, but perhaps Davy Jones's place can hardly be changed. Did we miss any interesting information about the Captain of Flying Dutchman? What is the villain you want Factor to bring up next? Comment below to let us know. Okay, thank you all for finishing today's video, and see you again in the next ones.